Are you saying that we should require state and local law enforcement to get a warrant before they fight back?
It depends on the condition. So in an exigent circumstance or something along the border.
I'm aware of the exceptions to the warrant requirement. But you, generally speaking, you want to require them to get a warrant.
Only for the search of a device or the seizure of property. There are also due process implications of that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. You started to mention another one of your objections.
First Amendment.
First Amendment. Okay. Any others?
Yeah, I also have a state rights, a 10th Amendment concern here, which is that states own the airspace adjacent to the land within their state that's not federally owned, and the current federal provisions don't recognize state sovereignty in that way.
Friends, patriots, and fellow Americans, what we just witnessed in this Senate hearing was nothing short of a clash between two visions for America. One that believes in empowering law enforcement to protect our communities, and another that hides behind endless constitutional technicalities to tie their hands and let the bad guys win. Senator John Kennedy of Louisiana, a man who pulls no punches, went head-to-head with a law professor over one of the most urgent issues of our time: the rise of drone threats being used by criminals, cartels, and yes, potential terrorists. The senator asked a simple question: should state and local law enforcement have the authority to fight back against drones when they're used by bad actors? And what did he get in return? A laundry list of constitutional caveats, legal lectures, and what looked like a carefully disguised attempt to make action impossible. And folks, Kennedy wasn't buying it. He called it like it is: loving a bill to death. That's when you pretend to support something but drown it with so many conditions that it either collapses or becomes toothless. This is more than just a debate about drones. This is a debate about whether America will defend itself, whether law enforcement officers, the men and women who risk their lives every day, will have the tools to fight back, or whether academics and bureaucrats will bury them under red tape while the threats keep growing. So let's break this down piece by piece and get to the heart of what this means for freedom, safety, and the future of America. Welcome to America Viewpoint, where we speak the truth, defend our freedoms, and fight for the values that made this nation great. No censorship, no woke spin, just bold, unfiltered commentary from real Americans who love this country. If you're tired of the lies and ready to stand for faith, family, and freedom, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the Liberty Bell, because this is where the fight begins.
The bad guys are using drones. Does anybody disagree with that? Okay. And the federal government has the authority to fight back, does it not? But state, nobody disagrees with that statement? Sure, Professor.
I would say within limits, yes. Within constitutional limits.
Okay. Do any of you disagree with giving state and local law enforcement the authority to fight back?
Again, within constitutional limits.
Okay. Tell me what your constitutional concerns are, Professor.
So I have three primary concerns. The first has to do with the Fourth Amendment and the conditions under which a warrant is required and a general warrant is forbidden by the Fourth Amendment. So in this particular case, it's important.
Professor, before you give me one of your lectures, are you saying that we should require state and local law enforcement to get a warrant before they fight back?
It depends on the condition. So in an exigent circumstance or something along the border.
I'm aware of the exceptions to the warrant requirement. But you, generally speaking, you want to require them to get a warrant.
Only for the search of a device or the seizure of property. There are also due process implications of that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. You started to mention another one of your objections.
First Amendment.
First Amendment. Okay. Any others?
Yeah, I also have a state rights, a 10th Amendment concern here, which is that states own the airspace adjacent to the land within their state that's not federally owned, and the current federal provisions don't recognize state sovereignty in that way.
So you want to give state and local law enforcement the authority to fight back, but you want to list a whole lot of conditions. Is that a fair assessment?
Not a whole lot, but some. There needs to be a nexus to the facility. It can't be any drone anywhere in America if you're concerned about a particular facility, but right now it's too broad. There have to be acknowledgments of First Amendment concerns. So for instance, limiting the covered facilities to the experience and logic test with which the courts use for right of public access, or prohibiting media bans across the board, or setting a time limit before and after special events so they don't extend extensively. This is what a number of state measures already do, and I'd like to see that at a federal level and apply to bring this within the constitutional limits.
Sounds like a lot of conditions to me.
No, not very many. As long as there's probable cause and the conditions are met, then absolutely you can.
Have you ever heard of a legislative practice called loving a bill to death?
Yes.
Okay. And that's when you take a bill and somebody says, I'm really for this bill. But then they add so many amendments and they screw it up so badly that the bill either becomes ineffective or doesn't pass. Is that a pretty accurate description?
Of the term?
Yeah.
Yes.
You're trying to love this to death, aren't you?
I disagree.
You're not really for giving law enforcement the power to fight back, are you?
I am in favor of giving law enforcement that power and respecting constitutional limits.
I don't believe you, Professor. Okay? You're not talking to Bambi's baby brother here. Okay? I've read some of your stuff. I think you'd be more intellectually honest if you just come out and say, I'm on the side of the bad guys here. I think we shouldn't give state and local law enforcement the authority to fight back. You're trying to make it as hard as possible, aren't you?
We'll have to disagree on that point, Senator.
Nah. You ever heard the expression, watch what they do, not what they say? I've watched what you've done. I know what you believe. You're on the FISA court?
I'm not on the court. No, I'm an amicus for the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court and the Court of Review.
Okay. Were you there when you guys issued all those bad warrants against Trump's people?
I can't discuss my work on the court, unfortunately.
Oh, it's top secret, right? You'd have to put me on the American people on double secret probation if you told them the truth, wouldn't you?
No. I can't discuss my matters that I've handled before the court. I can discuss the public ones where I've dealt with First Amendment concerns and the right to petition. I did an extensive history looking at that right
I'm done,
to petition.
Madam Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Kennedy. We're going to turn it over to Senator Blumenthal.
Thanks, Madam Chair.
Senator Kennedy started with a fact that nobody in the room disputed. Criminals are using drones. Drug cartels use them to scout border patrol routes. Smugglers fly them over prisons to drop contraband. In war zones overseas, we've seen terrorists turn cheap drones into deadly weapons. The technology isn't science fiction. It's already here. And if our enemies, whether foreign or domestic, can use drones to gain an edge, then surely our law enforcement officers should have the authority to neutralize those threats. That's common sense, right? But common sense often runs headlong into academic theory. The professor, trying to sound reasonable, laid out his 3 big objections. The Fourth Amendment, the concern that law enforcement would need warrants to seize or disable drones, lest they commit unconstitutional searches or seizures. The First Amendment, the worry that media or protesters might be unfairly restricted if counter-drone measures were too broad. The 10th Amendment, the idea that states, not the federal government, should control the airspace directly above their lands. Now, these sound sophisticated, but let's pause. Do you really think the Founding Fathers, when writing the Bill of Rights, imagined that a drone flying fentanyl across the southern border should be left untouched because a local sheriff doesn't have a warrant in hand? Do you think Madison or Jefferson wanted the First Amendment used as a shield for cartels, smuggling drugs, or foreign agents gathering intelligence with drones? Of course not. The Constitution is a shield for law-abiding citizens, not a weapon for criminals. Senator Kennedy saw right through it. He reminded everyone of the legislative trick called loving a bill to death. Pretend you support law enforcement, but add so many exceptions, so many amendments, so many conditions that by the end of it the bill can't pass or can't work. That's exactly what was happening here. The professor said, I support giving law enforcement this power, and then out came the conditions. Only near certain facilities, only under certain timelines, only if certain speech restrictions are considered, only if the airspace rules are rewritten, only if probable cause is spelled out in 100 pages of legal code. That's not empowering law enforcement. That's smothering them. And Kennedy, in his plain-spoken, sharp-tongued way, cut to the chase. You're not really for giving law enforcement the power to fight back, are you? Now, let's be clear. Conservatives, true constitutionalists, don't want government overreach. We don't want unchecked power. That's what separates us from the left. We believe in freedom and responsibility. But there's a difference between respecting liberty and paralyzing action. There's a difference between oversight and tying the hands of the very people we rely on to keep us safe. The professor wanted to argue that law enforcement should basically stop and check a constitutional flowchart before disabling a drone, potentially carrying explosives or drugs. That's not liberty. That's lunacy. The Constitution was written to defend the lives and freedoms of the American people. If criminals can exploit it as a shield, then we've twisted its meaning beyond recognition. Here's the bottom line. Drones are already a weapon in the arsenal of cartels, smugglers, and foreign adversaries. Law enforcement must have the authority to act quickly, decisively, and within reasonable constitutional guardrails. Endless academic conditions only serve one purpose: to delay, to weaken, and to protect the bad guys. And Kennedy nailed it when he said, I think you'd be more honest if you just came out and said you're on the side of the bad guys. Now, he wasn't accusing the professor of literally wanting crime to win, but he was exposing the reality. When your conditions protect criminals more than citizens, the effect is the same. And then came one of the most telling moments of the exchange. Kennedy asked the professor about his role with the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court, the very court responsible for some of the most controversial warrants in modern history. Remember those infamous FISA warrants against Trump's associates? The ones based on flimsy evidence, rubber-stamped by secret judges, later revealed to be riddled with errors and abuses? That court, the professor admitted he had served as amicus, not a judge, but a voice advising the court. And when Kennedy pressed him on whether he had been there during the bad warrants against Trump's people, the professor clammed up. I can't discuss it. It's classified. Sound familiar? We've heard that line before. Anytime accountability comes knocking, suddenly it's top secret. Suddenly the American people are told they're not allowed to know how justice is really being administered. Kennedy's quip about double-secret probation wasn't just humor. It was frustration. Frustration that, once again, those who operate behind closed doors can hide their actions from the public they claim to serve. Friends, this isn't just about drones. This is about whether America will choose strength or surrender. Every time our leaders tie law enforcement's hands, every time academics lecture instead of protect, every time Washington bureaucrats tell us they know better than local sheriffs, the American people lose. The left tells us government should control everything. Yet when it comes time to protect citizens, they suddenly find constitutional concerns. Where are those concerns when your free speech is censored online? Where are those concerns when the IRS targets conservatives? Where are those concerns when unelected agencies write rules that crush small businesses? The Constitution matters, absolutely, but it should be applied to defend liberty, not to paralyze justice. So let me ask you, do you believe local law enforcement should have the power to fight back against criminals using drones? Do you think sheriffs should have to go beg a judge for a warrant while a drone carries fentanyl into a high school parking lot? Do you believe the Constitution was written to protect American families or to shield criminals from accountability? The answer is clear. We stand with law enforcement. We stand with Senator Kennedy. And we stand with common sense. Because without it, America becomes not the land of the free, but the land of the handcuffed, where the people we trust to defend us are tied down by academics, while the bad guys run free. This hearing reminded us of truth. Watch what they do, not what they say. The professor said he supports giving law enforcement authority, but his actions, his words, his conditions tell another story. Senator Kennedy pulled the mask off. He revealed the double standard, and he reminded America that real leadership isn't about endless lectures. It's about standing up, drawing a line, and saying, enough. We will defend this nation. This has been one of the most eye-opening exchanges in recent hearings, because it shows us exactly what's at stake. Drones aren't toys anymore. They're tools of crime, smuggling, and even potential terrorism. And while law enforcement begs for the authority to fight back, some would rather bury them under legal red tape. But Senator Kennedy didn't let slide. He called it out, he exposed the game, and he defended the American people. And that's why we need more leaders like him. Leaders who don't just talk about protecting America, but actually fight for it. This is America Viewpoint, where we don't whisper, we roar. We stand tall, speak loud, and never back down from defending truth and liberty. If this message fired you up, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications, because the fight for America doesn't end when the video does. Until next time, stay strong, stay free, and may God bless the United States of America.